Most men have no idea how their words, tone, and energy silently push women away, not because they're bad, but because they've never been told the truth. This video will change that forever. Stay till the end, you'll never see attraction the same way again. Comment your location and hit subscribe if you're ready to evolve into your most magnetic, confident self. You see, one of the most common and subtle mistakes older men make is confusing confidence with control. It's something I've seen over and over again. Men who believe that taking charge, leading every conversation, or asserting their opinion at every turn is what makes them attractive. They think dominance equals strength. But what they don't realize is that this behavior often comes from a place of insecurity, not power. True confidence is not loud. It doesn't need to fill every silence, prove every point, or control every outcome. Confidence is quiet, it's composed, it's measured, and it comes from an inner knowing that you have nothing to prove. When a man tries too hard to control how others see him, what he's really showing is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of losing attention, fear of being seen as less desirable. So he overcompensates. He talks too much, interrupts, overshares, or tries to steer every interaction in his favor. And the irony is, the more he does that, the more uncomfortable he makes others feel, especially women. Because women are highly intuitive, they can sense when a man's energy comes from genuine self-assurance or from the need to dominate the space. Confidence at its core is about presence. It's about being completely at ease with yourself, even when things are uncertain, even when you don't have control. That's what women respond to. It's not the man who forces attention, but the man who commands it effortlessly. The one who listens more than he speaks, who doesn't rush to fill every gap in the conversation, who knows that silence can be powerful. Because silence is not weakness, it's comfort. It shows that you're not afraid of the moment, you're connected to it. Psychologically, this difference between control and confidence runs deep. A man who seeks control is usually fighting internal chaos. He believes that if he can manage everything around him, he can protect himself from vulnerability. But life doesn't work that way. Control might create temporary order, but it doesn't build connection. Vulnerability does. Confidence allows you to be open, to listen, to be curious instead of defensive. And that curiosity is magnetic. Philosophically speaking, confidence is a form of surrender, not to weakness, but to truth. It's the ability to let go of the need to dominate and instead trust your own worth. When you walk into a room, people can feel whether you're grounded or grasping for validation. Women especially notice this. They notice the difference between a man who's comfortable in his skin and one who's trying to convince everyone he is. And that's where many older men go wrong. They think they need to prove they still have it, that they need to act strong, assertive, or even slightly aggressive to show relevance. But the truth is, maturity itself is magnetic. You don't need to compete with younger men by mimicking their energy. You have something deeper, experience, wisdom, emotional steadiness. When you lead with that energy, control becomes unnecessary. Because power is not about controlling others, it's about mastering yourself. Imagine this, you're having a conversation with a woman, and instead of trying to steer it, you just listen. You let her finish her thought. You respond thoughtfully, not urgently. You smile without forcing it. You're calm, grounded, and present. That energy, that calm certainty, makes her feel safe. And safety is the foundation of attraction. Confidence is not what you do, it's how you are. It's a silent message that says, I know who I am and I don't need to prove it. That's what separates the men who seem creepy from the men who seem captivating. Because control is about fear and confidence is about freedom. And at the end of the day, the man who is truly free, free from insecurity, free from the need to dominate, free from the fear of silence, is the man who naturally draws others in. Not because he's trying, but because he's being. Remember this, confidence is not about taking space. It's about owning it without apology, without pressure, without fear. That's what makes a man unforgettable. Another mistake many older men make, and it's one that often goes unnoticed, is failing to read modern social cues. The world has changed. The way people communicate, connect, and express attraction has evolved drastically over the past decade, but some men are still operating with old scripts. The same lines, gestures, and assumptions that may have worked years ago but now feel out of touch. What used to come across as charming can easily seem intrusive or even uncomfortable in today's context. You see, confidence without awareness becomes arrogance, and awareness without adaptation becomes irrelevance. The problem isn't that older men can't connect with younger women or modern energy. It's that they sometimes resist evolving with the times. They rely on outdated behavior patterns, excessive compliments, unnecessary physical gestures, or comments that were once seen as flattery but are now perceived as boundary crossing. The intention may be harmless, but perception is everything. And in today's world, perception defines connection. Psychologically, this disconnect comes from habit. The human brain likes familiarity. It's wired to repeat what once worked because it associates that behavior with success. So, when an older man uses the same tone, jokes, or conversational tactics he used in his 20s or 30s, he's simply following a neural path of comfort. But what he doesn't realize is that the social context around him has completely transformed. Women today are more self-aware, emotionally intelligent, and protective of their boundaries than ever before. They can instantly tell when a man is out of sync with the social rhythm of the moment. This isn't about political correctness or fear of saying the wrong thing. It's about emotional intelligence. The ability to sense how your energy is being received and adjust without losing your authenticity. A man who reads the room well doesn't have to pretend to be someone else. He simply observes, he listens. He notices body language, tone, and pacing. He understands that attraction today is built not on dominance but on empathy, the ability to connect through understanding rather than performance. When you don't adapt, you send an unspoken signal that you're disconnected from reality, that you're living in your own time capsule. But when you do adapt, when you're aware of social energy, you communicate something powerful, emotional maturity. You show that you're not stuck in your past, you're evolving with the world around you. And that makes you relevant, relatable, and respected. Philosophically, awareness is a form of respect. To be aware is to say, I see you. I understand your world, even if it's not the one I grew up in. It's an acknowledgement that connection requires effort, not entitlement. That's what separates the man who appears wise from the one who seems creepy. A wise man observes before he acts, a creepy man assumes before he listens. So, what does reading modern social cues really mean in action? It means giving space for consent, not just in physical terms, but in conversation. It means noticing when someone withdraws their energy and respecting that signal instead of pushing harder. It means understanding that attraction today grows through emotional safety, not pressure. It means valuing depth over performance. Women today are not looking for a man who knows every line. They're looking for a man who feels aligned, someone attuned enough to sense, this is a moment to speak, or this is a moment to pause. That awareness creates trust. And trust is the soil where attraction grows. Being in touch with modern social energy doesn't mean trying to be young again. It means embodying timeless values, respect, empathy, mindfulness, in a way that fits the present. It's about emotional agility, not age. The man who can evolve without losing his essence, who can adapt without pretending, becomes magnetic. Because ultimately, awareness is the highest form of confidence. It says, I'm not here to impose my world on you, I'm here to understand yours. And in a world that moves fast and changes constantly, that kind of awareness isn't just attractive, it's rare. The world doesn't reward those who cling to the past, it rewards those wise enough to grow with the present. Stay aware, stay grounded, stay human. And then there's another subtle but deeply revealing mistake many older men make, one that often goes unnoticed even by themselves. It's the habit of hiding insecurity behind humor or flattery. On the surface, it seems harmless, even charming. They joke to keep the mood light, they compliment to show interest, and they believe these gestures make them more likable. But underneath that surface, there's often a quiet fear, the fear of not being enough, of being rejected, of being unseen. And the moment that fear drives behavior, attraction turns into discomfort, because people, especially women, can feel when humor or flattery is coming from insecurity rather than confidence. You see, when a man tries too hard to make someone laugh, or when he constantly throws compliments hoping to be liked, what he's really saying is, please approve of me. It's subtle, but psychologically, that energy creates imbalance. Instead of feeling grounded and present, he's performing. And performance, no matter how polished, always carries tension. Real connection, on the other hand, carries ease. What makes this dynamic tricky is that many men were raised to believe that humor and flattery are the safest ways to connect, that being the funny guy or the gentleman with endless praise makes them approachable. But times have changed. Today, authenticity carries more weight than charm. A woman doesn't want a man who entertains her to earn her approval, She wants a man who's comfortable enough in himself to be genuine, even if that means being quiet sometimes. Humor used as armor doesn't build connection, it blocks it. And flattery, when overused, feels less like admiration and more like manipulation. From a psychological perspective, this behavior often comes from self-doubt. When a man doesn't fully believe in his own value, he seeks reassurance through reactions. A laugh, a smile, a thank you. These become tokens of validation. But the more he chases them, the more his power slips away. Because the moment your sense of worth depends on someone else's response, you've handed over your confidence. And that's the real reason some men end up being perceived as creepy instead of charismatic. It's not their words or their jokes, it's the energy behind them. Philosophically, this goes even deeper. The essence of attraction lies in authenticity, in being aligned with who you truly are without fear of judgment. When your expression flows naturally from that place, it carries a quiet strength. You don't need to flatter because your presence itself is validation enough. You don't need to joke constantly because your calmness already creates comfort. When you speak, your words matter. When you pause, your silence holds weight. That's real masculine energy, not forced, not performed, but simply embodied. Think about this when you compliment a woman. Are you doing it to express appreciation? Or are you doing it to get a reaction? There's a big difference. Genuine appreciation uplifts both people. It's given freely, without expectation. But validation, seeking flattery, drains energy because it's transactional. One builds connection, the other builds pressure. The same goes for humor. A confident man uses humor to connect, not to hide. He's not afraid to let sincerity replace sarcasm or to let presence replace performance. He's not trying to be liked. He's simply being real. And that's why people naturally gravitate toward him. The truth is women, and people in general, don't fall for perfection, they fall for presence. They fall for the man who doesn't need approval to feel good about himself, the one who doesn't try to impress, but expresses himself with quiet honesty. When your words come from self-respect instead of self-doubt, everything changes, your tone, your posture, even your energy. You stop chasing connection and start creating it. So if you find yourself constantly joking or over-complimenting to fill silence or ease tension, pause. Ask yourself what emotion you're trying to avoid. Maybe it's awkwardness. Maybe it's fear. Whatever it is, face it. Because once you stop using humor or flattery as a shield, your natural charisma emerges. The kind that doesn't need to be proven, only felt. Remember, this authenticity is quiet power. When you stop trying to impress and start expressing from truth, you stop being seen as needy and start being seen as real. And real will always be irresistible.